Audio Jungle.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Cricket Tonight. I'm Kyle Ekstrom and I'm joined by Ryan Boltitude and Ali Fayor, and this week we will be covering the famous Australian cricket ball tampering scandal between players Steve Smith, David Warner and Cameron Bancroft, which occurred during the third test against South Africa at the Newlands Cricket Ground in Cape Town. Firstly reporting on the issue is Ryan.
Thanks, Carl. In 2018, the Australian cricket team toured South Africa to play 4 tests. On day 3 of the third test, with the series tied 1-1, Australia was close to defeat. In order to save the test, Cameron Bancroft used tape to roughen one side of the ball, adding swing for Aussie fast bowlers. TV cameras caught this, leading coach Darren Lehmann to radio the 12th man to inform Bancroft. Bancroft slipped the paper into his pants and was questioned by the umpires about the use of a foreign substance. After the day's play, Bancroft was charged with attempting to change the face of the ball, while Captain Steve Smith and Vice-Captain David Warner lost their respective captaincies. Australia lost the test, with Smith receiving 4 demerit points, equaling a 1-test ban by the ICC, Bancroft receiving 3 points and Warner none. Anger rose in Australia over the situation. I now pass over to Ali, who will explain the policy basis and punishments handed down.
Thanks, mate. So now for the policy basis and punishments in this case. Quite obviously, there are set policies in all sports that allow the game to be played as fair as possible, with no disadvantage to either side. Cricket Australia has a very straightforward policy requirement that are enforced harshly. So penalties relating to this issue in sport range from 1 to 4, 1 being the less severe one, while 4 being the most punishable. Regarding the case surrounding Steve Smith, David Warner and Cameron Bancroft, their involvement in a ball tampering issue in 2018 was seen as detrimental for all parties involved. The player's reputation as well as the national team was put on the spot, causing harm and unwanted issues. Under the CA policy standards, it quotes, "Any actions likely to alter the condition of the ball, which are not specifically permitted under the law 4132, may be regarded as unfair." So through this, we can see that it does breach the CA standards and thus leading the Cricket Australia to forcefully provide punishments for these players. So regarding the specific case, the umpire had the power to stop the game and assess the ball for any types of tampering. So this was shown effective as the Australian national team was most important players were caught red-handed. So they were left embarrassed and expressed their remorse on national television for all to see. When coming up with a punishment for the men involved, Cricket Australia decided on a 12-month suspension for David Warner and Steve Smith. Cameron Bancroft received a 9-month suspension. Additionally, Steve Smith and Cameron Bancroft were unable to captain their team for 2 years, while David Warner received a lifetime ban of any leadership roles. Now, after the punishment were issued, there were claims that the punishments were too harsh and the impact it had to their mental well-being was just too much to deal with, which is fair enough. They did go through a lot during that time. They are allowed to appeal the case, which is what they did do to Cricket Australia. However, Cricket Australia were very swift to dismiss any appeals and impose the same punishments as originally distributed.
Cricket Australia chose these lengthy bans in order to set an example of the actions of the players, as well as maintain the culture of Australian cricket and ensure nothing similar happens in the future. Investigations from the Australian Cricket Association found that the Cricket Australia resort to bullying tactics and have an arrogant and controlling nature, thus highlighting the excessiveness of the bans that were given. Following these claims, Cricket Australia Interim Chair Earl Eddings stated Cricket Australia maintains that both the length and nature of the sanctions remain an appropriate response in light of the considerable impact on the reputation of Australian cricket here and abroad. Back to you, Carl, for the effects the penalties had on the players.
Thank you, Ryan and Ali. As you've just heard, this ball tampering scandal had a massive effect on Australian cricket. The emotional toll that this took on all 3 players involved was immense. Following the suspensions, Steve Smith was brought to tears as he apologised during a press conference to Australia, along with Cameron Bancroft, who also fought back tears as he expressed the regret of his actions. Following this, 2 days later, David Warner broke down during his own press conference when he too addressed the media. The current playing group also took a huge hit as the illegal actions of these 3 players left a massive hole in the Australian cricket team, as they were left without their captain and best player Steve Smith and the number 1 opening batter David Warner. The absence of these players on the performance of the Australian cricket team was clear to see as they went on to lose the third test by 332 runs and were later defeated in the fourth test by an enormous 492 runs. The cricket team continued a long run of defeats as they lost 18 out of the next 26 matches in all formats of the game. That's all from us today, guys. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.